If you want to read a book that will pull your heartstrings until you are a weeping mess, this book is for you. The House in the Cerulean Sea is a contemporary fantasy novel written by T.J. Klune, and reading it felt like cozying up in front of a fireplace, drinking warm cocoa on a cold winter night, or dunking a freshly baked chocolate chip cookie in some cold milk. In other words, this is my all-time favorite comfort book, and I will love it forever. I've been seeing this book on TikTok for like so long, and I've only just gotten the chance to read it last January, and let me tell you, this did not disappoint. The story features Linus Baker, a middle-aged man who works for this company or this department, right? He's a caseworker who's in charge of visiting and evaluating orphanages for magical youth. And one day he gets assigned to this super top secret case to visit this house on an island, right? And Linus is just like, but nothing I haven't done before, right? I don't think he's supposed to be British, but in my head he is. Anyway, wrong. Turns out the children who lived in this house are like super top secret cases as well. One is a green blob, one is unknown, one is the Antichrist, for crying out loud. Now, a few of this book's main themes are segregation, prejudice, and discrimination, but before all that, I feel like we need to discuss magical realism. Magical realism is a literary genre or style associated especially with Latin America that incorporates fantastic or mythical elements into otherwise realistic fiction. So in essence, magical realism takes something that is considered to be out of the ordinary and depicts it as something normal. In The House in the Cerulean Sea, magic isn't something new to the world. There have been countless initiatives by the government in attempt to contain these magical creatures, but nevertheless, there is still an existing prejudice. I mean, from the cover itself, you could see that these children were completely isolated from the rest of the world. They were like castaways, banished to live on this lonely island by the edge of this cliff, almost as if the house was just about ready to collapse and fall into the Cerulean Sea. This was also super evident in Mr. Linus Baker himself. Upon arriving to the island, he already has several thoughts about the children that he was gonna meet, and also their caretaker, Mr. Arthur Parnassus. Parnassus? Anyway, right off the bat, he was out of his element. Linus was used to boring buildings, desk work, condescending bosses, and he was immediately thrown into this cornucopia of chaos. He gets to know these kids, who in theory sound extremely dangerous, but as time goes on, you get to see Linus slowly warm up to them and realize that they're just kids. Kids who are just curious, kids who just like to play, and most importantly, kids who like to dream. As much as I would like to dwell on the children, which in my opinion are the best parts of the story, I really don't want to spoil the experience for anyone who plans to read this book in the future. But these kids are the sweetest ones you will ever get to know. While some of them do have a hard exterior, it's only because of how people treated them in the past. But in essence, these kids are like if a cinnamon roll was a person or was a creature. They are so sweet and so precious, yet so wrong. It takes you along Linus's journey, and you watch these preconceived opinions start to dissipate as he grows attached to these wonderful characters and their caretaker, wink wink. But going back to the main themes of the story, all throughout this book, there's a slogan created by Daikemi, the organization Linus works for, is highlighted constantly, and that is see something, say something. And essentially you get a glimpse of how these magical creatures are treated in the book or in the world. It's very reflective of modern day society, wherein the higher ups constantly propagate this fear over a certain group of people to essentially drive the public to segregate them and, well, to establish power over them. But in reality, they're just children. They aren't man-eating monsters or entities that are capable of ending the world. Well, Lucy's a 50-50. But the point is, he doesn't want to end the world. None of them have any intention of hurting anyone. But because of the preconceived notion brought upon by the government that magical creatures should be contained because they're dangerous, people alienate them and hurt them as defense. It highlights how humans respond to the unknown. It can be assumed that magic has existed in this world for a long time now, but they still do not know the extent of some of the powers of these children. And because of that, they grow scared. They grow defensive. They use up all possible opportunities to beat these innocent kids into a corner and force them to think that they're inferior, that they don't belong, and that they can't coexist with humans. Knowledge is considered power, and without fully knowing the extent of a certain thing, it makes humans scared. And then it becomes a game of who can hurt the other first. Now, it really makes you ask the question, who are the real monsters in the story. The book also touches on other themes like capitalism, the corporate society, political propaganda, and even highlighted the adoption system. I could go on. I haven't even talked about the queer love story in this yet. But again, as much as I would like to talk and gush over Linus and Arthur's dynamics, I wouldn't want to spoil the experience for anyone who wants to read this in the future. Let me say this though. One of the most heart-melting elements in this book is how much Arthur loves the children. He's obviously built this relationship with the children on trust and pure love, and I always tear up whenever it's depicted in the book. He keeps up a strong facade, but he's also hurting. He's hurting for his children. He's frustrated because the world refuses to see them for who they are. I could constantly feel his frustration over the never-ending prejudice and hostility towards his kids, whom he loves so much. The house and the cerulean sea is so empowering to read, but I think Arthur has the best lines in the book. Can you tell he's my favorite character yet? This whole book is filled with so many quotes, it makes me want to start annotating even though I'm scared of it. This book is so good, it hurts. I've read 8 books this year, and that's a little slow compared to some booktubers, I know, but this was my first 5 out of 5 star book. I don't usually want to reread books, but if I had to choose one, The House and the Cerulean Sea would be it. I cried 3 times while reading this book, specifically in chapter 11, 13, and 17. I won't tell you why, you'll have to find out for yourself. It has a well-written plot with well-rounded characters sprinkled with scenes that will break your heart in the best ways. If you want to get into reading, this is a great start. Before ending this tangent, let me just leave you with a passage from the book. This is a story that one of the children wrote for their class. This is just something to think about and reflect upon after watching this video. So here it goes. I am but paper, brittle and thin. I am held up to the sun and it shines right through me. I get written on and I can never be used again. These scratches are history. They're a story. They tell things for others to read, but they only see the words, and not what the words are written upon. I am but paper, and though there are many like me, none are exactly the same. I am parched parchment. I have lines, I have holes. Get me wet and I melt. Light me on fire and I burn. Take me in hardened hands and I crumple. I tear. I am but paper, brittle and thin. So that is all I have time for you today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to rant about my favorite book ever. I really hope I influence some of you guys to pick this up soon, because I promise it's so worth it. You don't even have to be a bookworm to get into this book. Like, it's that good, guys. It's that good. I can't even emphasize how good it is. So yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment down below if you have any suggestions for books or even book videos that you want me to do. And if you want to see more book videos in the future, go ahead and click that subscribe button because it helps me a lot. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next video. Bye!